Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Shall we start or we'll just wait for a few minutes? Hello, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Now the screen is visible or not?
Yes, 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 sir.
Okay, okay, sir. So from today onwards, we'll be discussing about the population and settlement geography. This side, Tapas Ranjan Patra, Assistant Professor of Rajendra University, and within these 4 days, we'll be discussing those four blocks, and you know about your syllabus. So first of all, today we'll be discussing about the block one, and which deals with a lot of concepts and about different patterns and distribution and different information that has been given in the this block that you'll have to deal with yourself. Okay, so first of all, just like the population distribution pattern, the global distribution pattern, then how population has been distributed in India. So all this kind of information I can't simply describe within these 2 hours. So we'll mostly be dealing with the concepts, and if there will be some important points, then we'll discuss that. And at the end of our discussion, I will take questions from you guys, and you can ask at the end only. Okay, so first of all, we'll discuss a bit by bit, not bit by bit now, because I will have to skip a lot of things, and we'll discuss the important concepts first. Then at the end, I will take questions. You can ask your doubts, and I will clarify it. Okay, so what is population geography? So first, before getting into this, I want to tell you something about geography. Okay, so I know you guys might have done your honors in geography in graduation, but still, geography traditionally basically dealt with the physical geography part. So there are two approaches in which we basically study geography. One is your systematic approach and another one is your regional approach. So within systematic approach, we basically study about the physical geography, the human geography, and the biogeography. So within the human geography, this population and settlement geography falls. Okay, so we are basically dealing with this systematic geography. Now even few concepts of regional geography will come. Okay, but mostly we are dealing with the systematic geography, and the sub branch is basically the human geography part. And within that, we are studying about the population, its different dynamics of population, and also about the settlement geography. In later parts, we'll be studying about the settlement geography. So within block one, we'll be studying about these four units. Okay, nature, scope of population geography, population distribution, demographic and economic composition, then socio-cultural composition. So okay, as I have said, the geography traditionally was basically dealt with the physical geography. Now, because most of the geographers, they were confined to the physical geography part, mostly the geomorphology part in the initial phase. And even if you might have studied about the geographical thought, in which you might have studied about different contributors who have contributed to the field of geography. So the initial contributors were not basically from geography background. So they were from different other background. Few were geologists, few were botanists, and a few were environmentalists. So all those research scholars, they have contributed to the field of geography. But how population, now we are studying population or human geography as a field of geography. In this discipline, the population part was missing. So it was only around the mid 19th century when Radzel wrote the book Anthropogeography. Then only, the population part got its attention, and the population became. It's not only in the 19th century, but in the 20th century, in the mid 20th century, the population became the center of geography. And there are different even different definitions, and the history how the population has been included into the field of geography has been given here, so you can go through it. If you have any problem, you can ask me later. Okay, so what is population geography? So population geography, we are basically studying about the population in a spatial perspective. So what is that spatial perspective? So there are different components to population geography. So what are those population components? Population components can be the size of population, then how the population has been distributed over the earth surface, what are the different, now what is population density, then you have other population dynamics like fertility rate, mortality rate, then migration. So all these are studied under population geography. So in a nutshell, you can simply define population geography as the study of population in spatial perspective. Okay, so here basically it involves describing how people where populations are found, then how the size and composition of those population is basically regulated by the demographic processes like fertility, mortality, and migration. Then the pattern of the population, it is basically dealing with the economic development, different ecological changes, and social issues. What does that really mean, ecological changes and social issues? You have different social issues in our day to day life. Okay, so the social life is also studied under the population geography, and a different definitions has also been given by Trevartha, then J.I. Clark. So here, Trevartha in 1953, he has divided the population geography into three categories. So first one is your historic account of population, where we are basically studying about how what are the different population dynamics, what are the different components and elements of population in our history. Okay, so prehistoric and post historic phase. Then dynamics in terms of number, size, distribution, and growth patterns. So what are they? Size is basically what is the population size, and a distribution is basically population distribution, how population is distributed over the earth surface. Then population growth patterns, so basically you have maybe you will be having positive growth pattern and negative growth pattern. Then third one is your qualities of population and their regional distribution. So within qualities of population, you will be having a different composition of population. So you have different races, different religion, then distribution of population based on language. So all these are basically the qualities of population and their regional distribution. So how people are basically regionally distributed, so that is what we are studying in that category. Then different definitions has been given here. Okay, you can go through it. Okay, so then scope and relevance of population geography. Now, what are the different scopes that is revolving around the population geography and how relevant it is to the contemporary world? So this is the main point here. Okay, so why population geography becomes important or why it is relevant to the contemporary world? Now, because if you don't understand the population dynamic, first of all, you will not understand the quality of life. Okay, so population policies cannot be done. Then you have, there are limited resources. If we don't understand the population dynamics, then resources cannot be evenly distributed. And as we know that, the overpopulation is one of the biggest problems in today's world. So if we will not be having enough resources to feed those people, then uh, it will be a havoc for us. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand those population dynamics, and so that we will be having a better quality of life. And if we understand the population dynamics, let's suppose in India, let's take the example of India. We are basically having a very high population. Okay, so the size of population in India is very high, and there are limited resources, and a lot of people are living below poverty line. So what can be done in terms of improving their quality of life? So this is the scope of population geography. Now there is a gap between basically between this theoretical part and the practical part. Now, because if we'll be looking into the theory, there may be enough resources, but if we don't understand the population in a proper way, now let's suppose a lot of population are concentrated, a lot of people are concentrated in certain part of India, then we can't simply, maybe natural resources are available, but still uh, we can't simply maintain that gap. Okay, so although there are natural resources, although there are a lot of people who are living in India, but we can't simply fill that gap. So are you getting my point? Okay, so first, to lead that quality of life, we need to understand the population dynamics, where the people are living, and although we'll be discussing about what are the different factors which are uh, basically defining the distribution of population in the later part. Okay, so this is basically the scope and why it becomes relevant. Now, because if we don't understand population, then simply different administrative measures cannot be done. Now let's suppose the population density in a city is very high, or population distribution or the population size of any state is very high. So different population policies can be done by the administrators. If we don't have that data, if we don't understand that population dynamic, then we can't simply say that no, just like in China, because of high population, different population policies has been introduced, just like one child policy. So that one child policy has only been introduced only after studying the population dynamics or the population geography. So this is the scope. Okay, so how it is relevant, and it is relevant based on the size, okay, distribution and density of population, growth of population. So these are basically the scope of population geography. By studying these factors, or by studying these components and elements of population geography, we can simply say, or we can simply define the population geography, or define the population of any region. So distribution and density of population, then growth of population, composition of population, rural, urban population. So this is basically the composition, rural, urban composition, literacy and quality of population. Then you have migration. and technological development and population resources ratio. So all these are different scopes of population geography. Not exactly the scope of population geography. These are basically the elements and components of population geography, which is building the scope of population geography. Okay, so by studying these factors or by studying these elements, we can uh, we will be having a knowledge about the population of that area or population of any state. Then John I. Clark also have emphasized on three aspects of population. So those were basically size and distribution of population, population composition and structure, then population dynamics. Population dynamics in terms of population growth, okay, then fertility and mortality and migration. Population composition and structure basically deals with what is population composition. Now composition basically mean how in terms of age, sex, in terms of socioeconomic characteristics, so in terms of marital status, languages, or race or ethnicity. So these are the different composition of population. So by studying these, that will give the scope of population geography. Okay, so in this paragraph, the development of the discipline, basically development of the population geography, how it has emerged. Okay. So with mostly in 19th century, G.T. Trevartha was the one who Rachel was the one who introduced the topic into the discipline of geography. Then it was actually G.T. Trevartha who popularized the concept of population geography. Okay, so after that, in 1950s, 1960s, and in 1970s, and there are different concepts. You might have studied in geographical thought about quantitative revolution, about positivism, about environmental determinism and possibilism. Now, because the German school of thought, they mostly believed in the idea of environmental determinism, and the French school of thought, they believed in the idea of possibilism. And possibilism actually is another. Hello, everything is fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So possibilism is another concept that has been introduced by the French school of thought, and you know, that actually led to the development of population geography. Now, because what possibilism was saying, possibilism, the center part of possibilism was about the human beings. Everything is possible in terms of what? In terms of what? Everything is possible in terms of a better human life. Okay, so environmental determinism is basically what? All those geographers or all those scholars who believed in the idea of environmental determinism, so they believe that we people will be passive. Okay, while the possibilism, the idea of possibilism came, and then a lot of people started believing that we can modify the nature. So when now the people are active, here the human beings are active. So when the people are active, no, geography started emphasizing upon the population part, or started emphasizing upon the human part. Now because human beings played a major or vital role in shaping the geography. Now this quantitative revolution, the idea of possibilism, so all these ideas actually helped in the development of the population geography. Okay, and a brief history has been given here. You can go through it. Okay, development of geography in India. So mostly, actually, I don't have much idea about the population geography in India, but here, uh, here it has been given. The Punjab University, Chandigarh, has played a vital role in terms of development of this. No, in terms of development of this population geography in India. But most, I believe, the development of population geography worldwide is the development of population geography in India also. Okay, and there are few scholars who have studied the population of India. I think one scholar of GT Trevarta, who was from geography, Ghosal. Okay, so Ghosal's PhD work was basically based on the analysis of India's population in 1956. So, whose PhD guide was actually GT Trevarta, and he has studied the population of India. Then in 1960s, no, other Punjab University, Chandigarh, and other universities, I believe now a lot of population studies departments are also there. Now, even in Mumbai, we are having Indian Institute of Population Sciences. Then a lot of universities came up with population studies departments, and that actually led to the development of population. It's not only about the population geography, but studying about the population dynamics in India. But mostly, if we'll be studying about the population geography, uh, it is basically Punjab University who have started the department, and also you can go through the work of Ghosal's doctoral work. Then, what are the different sources of data with special reference to India? Okay, so what are the different data sources through which we can get different data about the population? So those are basically census data, vital statistics, demographic sample surveys, then population registers, and international publications. So I think census is very well known to everyone, I think. Okay, so census, it is only around, I think, 17th or 18th century. A lot of the Western countries, mostly the European nations and the USA, uh, so they started the concept of census. Okay, now the census came from a Latin word, so which means basically to assess. So this census, the population census, was carried by mostly. It was started by the European nations, and they collected different population data, mostly related to the size of population, then the population density, and the age and sex data. So all these data can be found in a census. Okay, so in India, although with special reference to India, we'll be discussing about the census. So this is basically, the census basically provides us data regarding the population. So here a brief history has been also given. Okay, you can go through it, and mostly it is the European nations. So they started this census, and as we have already studied why it is relevant to collect data of population, so that can actually help you in terms of understanding or in terms of introducing different population policies, and also we can take different administrative measures so that we can have a better quality of life. Okay, then vital statistics are basically the data about the births and deaths mostly. Okay, so in India, vital statistics can be found in municipalities, even in hospitals, where different birth certificates are given, then death certificates are given. So all these are basically your vital statistics, so which are giving you data about different population. Okay, so what is the natural growth rate? So if you want to know about the natural growth rate of any region, then you can go through these vital statistics. Okay, so it gives us data about the births, deaths, marriages, divorce, separations. So all these kind of data are widely available in vital statistics, and different sources are also there. Okay, so from where you can get vital statistics. Okay, so different government sources are there through which we get vital statistics. Even the hospitals, they do not provide you the vital statistics data, but they do provide those data to the government, and through through different organizations you can find those data. Then you have demographic sample surveys. Just like in India, you might have heard about the National Sample Survey organizations. So different sample surveys are done to understand the population dynamics, or to understand or to collect data of population. So sample surveys are basically suitable for all those, all those regions which are very vast. Okay, for a large region. Now, if you want the data within a quick span of time, we basically do the sample surveys. Okay, and there are few advantages and disadvantages of sample surveys. You and why these are important, why sample surveys are important? Maybe within a short period of time we will be requiring population data. So in that case, it is a suitable method. Okay, so sample survey data are also there. Then you have population registers. So population registers mostly in European nations, in Scandinavian countries, in just like Netherlands, Belgium, Finland, then Sweden. So all these countries actually maintain a register called population register. So which actually gives you comprehensive account of the population data from time to time. So how much population has changed, you can get through the population register. So within population registers, you are getting the data of birth, death, and the migrations. Okay, so whether it's immigration or emigration, so you will get the data. Then you have international publications. So within international publication, mostly I think United Nations that publishes books, a demographic yearbook, so which is basically published by United Nations. Then you have the population and vital statistics report. So quarterly it is being published by the United Nations. So which gives you data about the fertility, mortality, then marriage, divorce, migration, and different population census statistics. Okay, so a lot of data are collected from different countries, and they were compiled together, and uh, then only UN publishes this demographic yearbook. It's not only the UN, also World Bank publishes different population data. Then you have UNDP. UNDP also gives you the Human Development Report. So within Human Development Report, you have different parameters of human development, which are basically the data of population only. Now, just like literacy rate, then per capita income, or the population density and population distribution. All these data can be found through the Human Development Report. So international publications on world population data includes, so this production yearbook. Okay, then you have book of labor statistics. So all these publications actually provides you data about the population. So likewise in India, you have a population census. So census, I think the first attempt was made in 1872. So which was unsuccessful, and Then the first successful census was conducted in the year 1881, and after which, within 10-year gap, okay, within a period of every decade, we'll be having a census. Now, in 2021, we didn't had any census because of the pandemic COVID-19, as you all know. So the last census that was conducted was in 2011, and all the data are easily available. You can go through the population census data. So hopefully we'll be having a population census in 2025 maybe. Now, because the 24, within 24 is basically we will be having election, and so this kind of event, maybe the census will be delayed. Okay, so hopefully we will be having the census, and we'll get to know different population data. Vital or civil registration in India. So the vital statistics can also be found in India through different organizations, through different government organizations only. Okay. Actually, Registrar General also provides you vital statistics. Then different sample registration systems. Yes, sample registration system was introduced in the third 5-year plan, and that is your that actually gives you data about births and deaths. Sample surveys, I think I have given you example of the NSSO, so National Sample Survey Organization. Then you have other organizations like National Family Health Surveys and a district level household surveys. So all these will be providing you data, and mostly the sample survey data. They do not collect data from house to house, unless and until it is census, but you'll be finding different kinds of data from here only. You can actually read different books, just like Human Geography by Majid Hussain, then Population Geography by Muhammad Ijhar Hassan. So these two books I will suggest to go through to understand the population dynamics better. Okay, so in Unit 2, we'll be discussing about the population distribution. So what is population distribution? Then what are the different factors which are determining the population distribution? Then different concepts and measures of population distribution and density. Global pattern, I will leave the global pattern part. Okay, patterns of distribution, you will go through it. If you don't understand it, I will drop down the email address of mine, and you can mail me. Okay, so distribution pattern. What do we mean by population distribution first? So first, understand what is population distribution. Population distribution is nothing but how the population is distributed over the Earth surface. It is there is variation in population distribution, and there are different factors which are actually affecting the population distribution. So we will be understanding about the distribution of, or the distribution pattern of world population. Then we'll see, the mostly Asia will be in the top in terms of contributing population to the world. Okay, so I think around 60% of world's population are residing or dwelling in Asia only. Okay, and Asia is having somewhere around 30% of the world's land. So Asia actually contribute to the world's, high. It is basically a very populous continent, and there are different factors which are actually supporting Asia. So then you are having, Africa, so which accounts, 17% of world's population. Europe accounts for around 10% of world's population. Then North America accounts for around 8% of world's population. South America accounts for around 5% of the world's population, and Oceania somewhere around 1%. So you can go through the table and the area, so by which you can understand, okay, by which you can understand what percentage of people are actually living within which continent, and you will have a brief idea about uh, which continents are the most populous continents. And after understanding the different factors which are determining the population distribution, you will also understand why these continents are having, a higher population percentage as compared to the other continents. Okay, so which are the different factors which determine the population distribution? So firstly, you have physical factors. So physical factors, mostly, you are having physiography, climate, soil, forest cover, water, energy, and mineral resources. So all these are basically physical factors, so which are basically considered very important in terms of population distribution. So how physiography basically plays an important role in terms of population distribution? Now, just think about a plain land and just think about a slopy land or a very high land. So definitely the hills and mountains will not be dwelled by a lot of people. Okay, so as compared to the plain lands. Now, because the plain lands, now I can give examples of the the northern plains of India. So because of these plain lands, now the settlements can easily be built. Then the transportation and communication facilities will be good. So that's why physiography actually plays a very critical role in terms of determining the population distribution. Okay, so definitely the slopy areas or the highlands will be inhabited by a very less number of population as compared to the plain lands. Now, because plain lands actually support, the settlements, that actually supports the transport and communication, that actually supports the agriculture also. So all these factors actually help the population to inhabit a region. Okay, so that's why the plain lands of the world actually have high population density as compared to the hilly and mountainous regions. Then you have climates. Now the climate can be divided into two parts. Okay, the extreme climate and the moderate climate. Now, as we know, the most coastal areas are inhabited by a very large population density. Why? Now, because the coastal areas do have a moderate climatic influence. Okay, the weather patterns over there are not very extreme. Extreme by mean I am saying the temperature is very harsh in night. If the temperature goes down below 0 degree, now mostly in daytimes, now in desertic region, you will be experiencing the extreme climates. Okay, so those regions are not inhabited by a high population. Okay, so just like the polar regions. Okay, so the polar regions are not inhabited by a large number of population. Why? Now, because of the extreme weather conditions over there, and that will not support different different services, so which are basically required by us, which are basically required by the human inhabitation. So that's why the moderate weather climate, okay, so the moderate climate is being preferred by a lot of people. Then soil, okay, so definitely the fertile lands will be having a high population as compared to the infertile lands. Now just like the alluvial plains of the northern India, so those were inhabited by a lot of people. And why? Because it supports agriculture. And when it supports agriculture, so the agricultural productivity will be high. And the people as people, our basic need is basically food. Okay, so if the agricultural productivity will be high, then a lot of people will be inhabiting that place. Then forest cover, so definitely the regions which are having dense forest cover, a lot of people are not living there. Okay, so just like in hilly and mountainous region, those regions are not inhabited by a high population density. Then water, the availability of water is also one of the critical part. Okay, uh, why? Now because as human beings we need water. We need water for our survival, we need water for industrialization, we need water for uh, the agriculture. So all these are different factors, so for which the availability of water is very important. Now, so that's why you'll see a very large number of civilizations in prehistoric period. A large number of civilization uh, were nearby any river valleys. Okay, so the river valleys, they supported these civilizations, just like Indus Valley civilization. So these rivers actually supported this kind of kingdoms. Okay, so that's why availability of water is important. Then you have energy and mineral resources. So as human beings in contemporary world, if we understand how energy and mineral resources is vital. Now because we require resources, we need, now let's suppose electricity consumption. In today's world it is very basic in nature. So if you don't have the energy, if you don't have that mineral resources, those mineral resources, so you'll no, your life will not be supported by those services. Okay, just like electricity, just like you are constructing, cement houses, or you are constructing a different building. So those are actually helping you in a lot of sense. Okay, so if those resources will not be available for you, then you will be discouraged to live there. So these are all physical factors which determines the population distribution of any region. Okay. Then socioeconomic factors. So what are the different socioeconomic factors which determine or define the population distribution of any region? Now there are population organization, just like religion, just like urbanization, education, healthcare facilities. Okay, so all these are different, all these are side factors, although side factors, but still contributing to determining the population distribution of any region. Now if the health condition, or sorry, the health facilities and the educational facilities are not good, then people, a lot of people will be discouraged to live there. Okay, so even you have a political stability, so which can be included under your socio-economic and political factors. Now because political stability is also critical in nature. Now you can look into the current or contemporary geopolitics of the world, and you can look into different African countries. So there is political instability. So a lot of people will be discouraged to live there. If a country is having terrorism within itself, then maybe a lot of people will not be willing to live there. So all these are different factors which all together contributing in terms of determining the population. Okay, so in terms of determining the population distribution of that region. Then different demographic factors. So within demographic factors, you have like now fertility, mortality, and migration. So that actually how it becomes how it defines the population distribution. Now, if the natural growth rate of any region is very high, then what will happen? Definitely, the population distribution of that region will be very high. Now, take the case of India, take the case of China. So, you are if you will be looking into the natural growth rate of India and the natural growth rate of China, those are very high. Now, because the fertility is very high, the birth rate is very high, so that's why the population distribution in India and China is very high. So this is another demographic factor. Now, because if we'll be neglecting the growth rate, if we'll be neglecting the demographic factor, it's not that it is the only determinant factor, but still it actually helps in understanding why Asia is having a large population. Okay, now because the natural growth rates are very high as compared to USA, as compared to European countries. Now the natural growth rate in India and in the Asian countries are very high. So definitely the population distribution will be very high. Okay. Concept and measures of population distribution and density. So basically, the population density concept. Population density is nothing but population per unit area. Okay, so the population density in India, we measure it through per thousand population. Okay, so within sorry, per thousand, per square kilometer, not thousand population, sorry. So per square kilometer, let's suppose we are having 400 people who are inhabiting that 1 square kilometer. So then the population density of that region is basically 400. So this is basically arithmetic density. That is one measure that we are using. But there are other concepts. Okay, so there are other density measures that we take into account to understand about, let's suppose, agriculture, to understand about the pressure on land. So all these can be studied through different other measures. So the population density in general terms, we are using the arithmetic density. Okay, so we have concepts like physiological density. So physiological density is nothing but the total population divided by the area under cultivation. What does that really mean? So it will give us the data about what, how the cultivated land is under pressure or not. Okay, now this physiological density basically gives us idea about whether the agricultural productivity or the production will be enough for any state or not. Okay, then agricultural density, it is somewhat different to the physiological density. Now because the agricultural density is basically agricultural population divided by the area under cultivation. So all those people who are in physiological density, we are taking into account all the population. all those people who are even engaged in tertiary sector or even in secondary sector. But in agricultural density, we are basically defining those people who are engaged only in agricultural activity. Okay, so all those people who are engaged in agricultural activity divided by the area under cultivation, we can get the agricultural density of population. Then you have something like nutritional density. So it is basically population divided by area under food grain cultivation. Okay, area under food grain cultivation. So that gives you the nutritional density of population. Then you have economic density of population. So it is basically the ratio the between the requirements of a population by the quantity of resources which is made available to it. Okay, so that is basically the economic density of population. It is basically economic density. Now let's suppose an area, okay, so any let's suppose an a spatial unit, so which is having a lot of resources. Okay, so that can support, let's suppose, 1000 population. The resources available in that spatial unit is can support 1000 people. Okay, so the economic density will be 1000. So that is what it is telling us. Okay, so these are different measures other than your arithmetic density, which is basically the density of population. You have physiological density, agricultural density, nutritional density, and even the economic density of population. Okay, global pattern of population density, then population density zones. So these are very informative in nature. I believe if you'll go through your study material, then you will understand it. Okay, we'll discuss only about the concepts. Even this part, yeah, the pattern of population distribution and density in India. So you can go through different data and tables that has been given here. Okay, through this dot map also you can understand the population distribution. So mostly this, okay, this the far northern belt of India, so which is uh, your mountainous region. Okay, so mountainous region, so the population density will be very low. Then you have here the northern plains. So this is basically plain land, and also you are having alluvial soil which supports, which is very fertile in nature, and it supports agricultural activity. So that's why a lot of people are concentrated in this region. Okay, so Punjab, Haryana, then UP, Bihar, okay, parts of West Bengal. So all these are basically the fertile lands of India, and these are inhabited by a huge population, as you can see. And even these regions, okay, the middle portions of our country, so this is the western part, it is basically the third desert. So that's why the population distribution is very low. Then you have Vindhyas and Satpura range, so around this, okay, around the middle region, okay, Madhya Pradesh. So and even the plateau regions, different plateau regions are here. So that's why the population distribution is low in these areas. Then comes your the Deccan Plateau. The Deccan Plateau region is also, highly high population is inhabiting in in those regions. And even you can see the western coastal plains. The western coastal plain regions are also inhabited by a large population. Okay, so why this happens? Because of the weather conditions or the climatic condition. So it supports the moderate climate. So that's why a lot of people are living in the western margin. Okay, western coastal plains. Now even in eastern coastal plains you will be seeing a high population concentration. Okay, and in these regions, okay, so these regions are inhabited by a huge population, mostly because of, factors like the development. Then you have different factors like, uh, you know you have different provinces. If you understand the history of India, so that actually can give you an imprint about why even different corners of India is having a large population. Now, because this West Bengal, the Kolkata, okay, the West Bengal Kolkata region, then you have Chennai region, and the Mumbai. So all these were provinces of British. Okay, so a lot of people started living there. Then development of cities also played an important role. Okay, cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. So all these Kolkata. So all these metro cities are actually supporting the population distribution. Okay, so the population density of these cities will be very high. So this is the population density map of India. You can even you can find the data of population density of 2011 census. Then rural urban distribution of population. Uh, Here also the pattern. Okay, it is very informative in nature. So you go through it. If you don't understand it, then you can ask me. Okay, maybe we'll discuss it in later classes. First, go through these data. Now, these are very informative. We can't simply go through it. So go through it first, then we'll discuss it later maybe. Okay, so then urbanization. So what do I mean by urbanization? Urbanization is nothing but basically a village which is turning into a town. Okay, so in literal terms, it is basically a village which is turning into a town. And broadly, if we will be looking into the definition of urbanization, it is basically uh, the process in which the agricultural places. Okay, so basically it is the transformation of agricultural areas to the non-agricultural one. So through the development of industries, trade and commerce, then transport and communication, then different infrastructure facilities. So through these facilities, these areas or these regions are turning into urban areas. So this process is known as urbanization. Although there are different parameters in which we can say this area can be termed as urban place, and these areas cannot be termed as urban places. Okay, so maybe if we will be having the settlement, okay, in which we are actually having the settlement geography, in which we will be studying about the urban settlement and rural settlement. We'll briefly discuss about which places will be termed as urban places. And according to the census of India, okay, the census of India has defined urban places, those places can be considered as urban places, so which will fulfill these criteria? So first of all, so there are four criteria. First of all, that place should have a minimum population of 5,000. So always remember, this definition can vary from place to place or country to country. So in countries like India, we are uh, the population limit is around 5,000. Okay, so more than 5,000 people, if that place will be inhabited by more than 5,000 people, then we can consider that as an urban place. Then the population density of that area should should be more than 400 persons per square kilometer. Then again, the 75% of male working population, always remember the male working population. Okay, so more than 75% of people should be engaged in non-agricultural activities. So that means they shouldn't be engaged in primary activity. So they should be engaged in secondary and tertiary activities. So if these conditions are met, those that region can be considered as a town. So if these three conditions are met, then there is other criteria, there is another criteria, so in which if any place, so with a notified municipal committee or municipal board, can be called as a statutory town. Now even even in uh, in previous times we used to have cantonment towns. So if any place which is having a cantonment, then we can consider that as an urban area without fulfilling these conditions also. Okay. So on the basis of population size, the census of India has divided the cities into different categories: class 1 town, class 2, class 3, class 4, and class 5. Then you have class 6 towns. So you have six classifications. So in which, based on the population size only, the census of India has divided the classes of towns. You can go through it. Okay, the class 1 town will be having population more than 1 lakh. Class 2 town will be having population between 50,000 to 1 lakh. Class 3 towns will be having population between 20,000 to 50,000. Class 4 10,000 to 20,000. Class 5 5,000 to 9,000. And you have class 6, which is having a population below 5,000. Okay, so if any any region which is having a municipality board or notified area, or just like what I have said, any cantonment, so those can be considered as cities or urban places. So only those areas do have class 6 towns or class 6 cities. So within trend, it basically defines different patterns of urbanization. uh, I will not dive deep into this one. You have global patterns of urbanization level. Even you can go through it also. Okay, so it will be basically describing about which are the places. Okay, which are the places which is having a high number of population which are living in urban areas, and which places are basically the population of which places are basically living not living in urban areas. So you can go through different datas and tables. And then spatial patterns of urbanization level in India. And you can look into this map, and this basically shows the pattern of urbanization in India. And definitely all those states which are rich So the urbanization level will be very high. Now, just like Maharashtra, Gujarat, so all these states are rich. So that's why the urbanization level is also very high. Okay. So it is basically showing what percentage of population are living in urban areas. Okay, so 42% and above population are basically living in urban areas in Maharashtra, Gujarat. Okay, so these areas are just like Andhra Pradesh, so it is having uh, a population which is living, a population of around 31 to 36 percentage which is living in urban areas. Okay, so just give me a break of 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes. We'll discuss the unit 3, demographic and economic composition. Okay, just a minute. Hello. So welcome back, everyone. Uh, we'll continue our discussion about the demographic and economic composition. Okay. So what is composition? Population composition. I think in previous while discussing about the first unit, I think we are discussing about the population composition. So what is age composition? Age composition is basically how population are composed based on their age structure. Okay, So in this section, we'll basically be dealing with age composition and sex composition. So the concepts and determinants of age composition, what are the different factors? Okay, so determinants are basically different factors which are affecting the age structure of population of any region. So what is age composition? That we have already discussed. Okay, so within you, what are the different categories of people? Okay, you might have already studied about young population, then youth population, then old population. So you have these are the categories. Okay, these are different categories through which we have divided the population. And even you have dependent population and independent population. So which are the dependent population? One is working population, so that is basically independent population, which is the age group which starts from the age group of 15 years to around 59 years. So all those people, so which are under the age of 15 year and which are above the age of 60 year, so we are considering them as the dependent people or dependent population. And all those working population are basically termed as the independent population. Okay, so which are the different factors which affects the age composition of any region? Now, first of all, we have to understand the fertility and mortality and migration. So these are the three factors which influence the age structure, which influence the population. Okay, which influence the growth of population. So what is now? Which are the different factors which affects the natural growth of population? It will be fertility and mortality. But growth as a whole, okay. So the growth of population as a whole is being determined by these three factors, which are fertility, mortality, and migration. So fertility rate will decide uh, the age composition also. If the fertility rate is very high and the mortality rate is also very high, then the young population will be more. Okay, and the old age population will be less. So these are different factors which are actually affecting. Then you have migration. So migration also plays a vital role in terms of determining the age composition of any region. Why? Now, because of employment opportunities, a lot of people from rural areas they migrate to the urban areas. So that's why the working population in the urban areas and the independent population in the urban areas will be quite high as compared to the rural areas. So the dependent population in rural areas is high. Now why? Now because a lot of people have migrated towards the urban area and the age composition has also changed because of this migration process. Okay. Now and always remember the natural growth stays the same. Natural growth is something different, but the population growth as a whole is different. Okay, so because of this migration factor, so the population composition also changes. Okay, and you have how fertility rate actually determines the population, then how mortality rate also determines the age composition. So that can be easily understood. If there will be high fertility, so definitely the young population will be high, and if there will be high mortality rate, so definitely the old age population will be low. Okay, okay, see here you have age grouping. So within age grouping you have 0 to 14 years, so which are considered as children, are known as your young age. Then 15 to 59, those are considered as adult or active age. Then 60 plus are considered as aged or old age population. Then what is the average population age is basically what percentage of people uh, is basically contributing to, you know, which section of people, which section of that age composition is basically contributing highest to the total population. Now let's suppose is 37. Okay, uh, a lot of people are from the age of 37. So that's the average age. What does that really mean? A lot of people are there as compared to other age groups. So that is the average age. So we basically consider, the average age in terms of understanding the population dividend. So if the working age population, their average age will be low, then we can consider that country can develop in near future. Now, because the working population is high and they are independent and they can support the development of any nation. So age indices is basically describing about this dependency ratio, who are independent, who are dependent. Okay, you can go through it. Then you have age pyramid. Okay, together we could have studied about the age 6 pyramid, but here age pyramid basically represent the age data of population. Okay, on 5 yearly age groups. So in the form of series, I think in graduation you might have studied about the age 6 pyramid. So which is basically the graphical representation of the male and female population in different age groups. So in age pyramid, we are basically using 5 year interval. Okay, and here are the diagrams you can see. Okay, so 0 to 4, 5 to 9, then 10 to 14, 15 to 19. So these are female population, these are male population, and remember this is in percentage. Okay, so this is in percentage. So what does that really mean? 0 to 4 age group of people. Okay, so they are somewhere around, they are just less than 3%, they are contributing just less than 3% to the male population. Now here also, okay, similar. And here the what will be the average age? The average age will be somewhere around this. Okay, so somewhere around 45 to 49 will be the average age here, or maybe just below that, around 40 to 44. Now why? Because the population pyramid, you know, uh, towards towards the top. Okay, towards the top we have an inclined top. What does that really mean? Inclined top, basically the old age population is very low as compared to this. Okay, and these kind of structures are basically seen in in those places or those countries, so where you can where the birth rate was very high, and then recently government has taken initiative to reduce the birth rate. So that's why these kind of structures can be found. Now these are the structures So which is basically expansive in nature. This is expansive structures, okay, and this is constructive structures. This is stationary population. So in the demographic transition, now the first stage is basically describing us about the high birth rate and high death rate kind of population. So in which you have high birth rate and high death rate. So definitely these kind of structures can be found in expansive structures. Okay, expansive age pyramids. These are expansive age pyramids. So these are constructive age pyramids, and where the birth rate has reduced a bit. Okay, and this is basically stationary age pyramid. Why? S6 pyramid. Why? Because the birth rate and death rate has been reduced, and population is somewhat stationary or somewhat constant in nature. Here the birth rate will be very high, so that's why the young population or young age people or the babies, okay, from 0 to 4 years, so they are contributing highest to the population. Okay, so here you have expansive population, then constructive population pyramid, then stationary population pyramid. So based on the birth rate, fertility rate, and life expectancies and death rates, these kind of structures can be well defined. Okay, so median is nothing but the average age. Okay, so the median value of age data of population of any country or area is known as median age. So why it is important? Now, because if the median age uh, is very high, okay, so the median age is very high, then what will happen? That means a lot of no older age population are basically present in that country. So the future, okay, the future development uh, will be very less as compared to. It's not only the age composition that actually decide the development of any country. There are a lot of factors which are contributing to the development of a country, but still we can say it is basically the demographic dividend. So if the demographic dividend will be high, then the country will develop in near future. And then here also you have different global patterns. You can go through it. Then sex composition. Sex composition is basically the proportion of males and females in human population. That is sex composition. And in population geography, we basically study the age-sex composition together, and that's why we have the age-sex pyramid. So in which, and here the sex composition of population, so which can be measured in terms of sex ratio between male and female population. So those are basically of three types. Okay, primary sex ratio, secondary sex ratio, and tertiary sex ratio. So I think you all are aware about the sex ratio or parameter that India is using. Okay, so basically, so number of females per thousand male. So that is the sex ratio of India. But in different countries, different parameters are used. Now in Scandinavian countries, number of males per thousand females are also used. And okay, so we'll be discussing about this kind of, so these categories of sex ratio. So first one is your primary sex ratio, that basically refers to the ratio of male female population at the time of conception. Okay, then the secondary sex ratio is the ratio between male and female population at the time of birth. and the tertiary sex ratio denotes the ratio between female and male population at the time of enumeration. So it is basically the tertiary sex ratio that we use for enumeration. Okay. Then what pattern of sex ratio you can you can look into this map. Okay, so definitely the developed nations do have a higher sex ratio. Okay, so the female population and the male population so is quite none of the female population in developed nations are quite high as compared to the underdeveloped nations and developing nations. So now, although in India, I think the sex ratio is according to 2011 census, the sex ratio was somewhere around 941 or 43. I don't remember exactly, but in Scandinavian countries, the sex ratio, even the number of females per thousand male crosses even 1100. So definitely the female population outnumber the male population there, and in India different measures different initiatives has been taken by the government so that can actually solve these kind of issues, and hopefully in near future we can have we can achieve that kind of sex ratio just like in developed countries. Okay. So so these are the pattern of distribution of sex ratio at country level. So there are different countries which number of countries which are below 900 females per thousand male. Then you have more than 1025 to 1050, so which is around 34. Okay, so mostly these European nations do have a higher sex ratio. Then you can look into this map, and we can clearly see there is a higher sex ratio or higher number of females per thousand male in the western coastal plain region and the northern region. Okay, and sorry, the southern parts of India. Then in northern India, mostly in northern India, we see a very low sex ratio, and in UP and Gujarat also you are having a sex ratio of somewhere around 901 to 925, and so there are different factors which are influencing the sex ratio also. Now because there are traditional societies so which believed uh, in the idea of giving more emphasis to the male child. So that's why in India we have initiative like Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao Andolan, and even different initiatives has been taken by the government. Okay, so to improve in sex ratio of India, and particularly in different states. Age 6 pyramid for India and selected countries. Okay, so this is the age 6 pyramid of India. So still the natural growth rate of India is quite high, and we can clearly see the youngest population is very high as compared to other nations, unless and until those developed nations. their mid-age population is very high now because the birth rate has been controlled. And here in India, the natural growth rate, now although different initiatives has been taken by the government of India to aware people about the overpopulation, about how resources are limited, and if the overpopulation gonna actually, that will create different types of problems. So although a lot of people are still living below poverty line, and if the population will be high, then also we don't have that much of resources to support that population. So still different measures has been taken, and now I think the population birth rate, uh, now we can't simply say that it has been controlled properly, but still it is slowing down. We are in the, I believe, in the fourth stage of demographic transition now, where the old age population, although the life expectancy in India is somewhere around 65 or 66, I believe, average, on an average. uh, I am not talking about the male and female. So on an average it's around 65 or somewhere around that. So we can simply say that the young population is quite high and the old age population is decreasing. Okay, so with time we are hoping to not have a broad, the broad bottom. So the bottom here is very broad in nature. Okay, so hopefully we'll narrow it down, and that gonna help in our nation's development also. And here also you can clearly see the differences in male and female. The male child, okay, the male child population is very high as compared to the female child population. Okay, and the youngest population in female category, now here we are seeing in millions. Okay, it's not in percentage. So around 60 million of 0 to 4 age, okay, children are from male, are basically male. So female we are having somewhere around 55. Okay, so there is a difference, still there is a difference. So this is the structure of Ethiopia, and it is somewhat like India. Okay, this is the structure of Bangladesh. Although the birth rate is reducing a bit. So this is the structure of USA, and this kind of flat, no, the flat bottom kind of structures, those are basically found in developed nations. Now because they do have a stationary population. Okay, then economic composition. So based on the economic activity, we can categorize the population. Okay, so what are the different types of economic activities? Different types of economic activities are basically your primary activities, secondary activities, tertiary activities. So based on that we can determine different population composition. Now definitely the rural population will be engaged mostly in the primary activities, and to some extent to the secondary activity, but mostly the urban population will be engaged in the secondary activities and tertiary activities. So likewise we can define the population composition. based on the economic or occupational structure, economic activity or the occupational structure. So okay, so there are different concepts which are related to workers. Okay, now who is a main worker, who is a marginal worker. So who is a main worker? So any worker, okay, the main workers are those who work for more than half of a year. So that is more than 183 days. So if any worker who is getting a job or getting work for more than 183 days, those will be considered as main worker. While marginal workers are getting, you know, jobs for less than 183 days. So based on that also we can get an idea about the workforce. Okay, so now even why it is important to understand about the workforce now, because now even though the rural areas do have a large workforce, but still they are unemployed. Okay, and mostly countries like India, countries like Southeast Asian nation, and even in few African countries, the workforce is high. Okay, but they are unemployed, and even there is structural unemployment, and even few of the people, they are not fully engaged or not fully employed. So these are different types of works on economic work that has been classified by the United Nations. Okay, so that recommended a industrial classification scheme. So by which we can classify. Okay, we can classify the population, the population composition based on, those who are engaged in agriculture, forestry and fishing activities. So that can be categorized differently, while mining and quarrying activities, and all those people who are engaged in mining and quarrying activities, those people can be categorized differently. Even manufacturing industries, so this mining and quarrying activities, so all these are one and two are basically your primary activity, while manufacturing is basically your secondary activity. Then you have commerce, construction, different types of services, transport, storage and communication and other services. So all these are classified as the tertiary activity. Okay, and based on the census has divided, okay, the workers or all those people who are engaged in this classification. You can look into these classes. You have cultivation, all those who are engaged in cultivation activities. Agricultural laborers, they basically do not have a patch of land, so they do work in others, okay, others land, and those are considered as agricultural laborers. Then you have livestock, forestry, fishing, hunting, plantation, orchards, allied activities. So this is third category. Now all these categories are basically belong to your primary activity. Then manufacturing activities, processes, services, repairs. You have construction activities, trade and commerce activities, transport and storage activities. Okay, so all these categorization has been done by the Census of India during 1971 to 1991 census. And these are different sectors of any economy, and we have already discussed about different economic activities, so which are related to the primary sector. Now, just like cultivation, okay, plantation, mining, quarrying, so all these belongs to the primary sector. Then you have secondary activities or secondary sector, so which implies your manufacturing and processing industries. And manufacturing industries is huge, and that basically accounts for the secondary sector. The tertiary sector is basically the service sector, and that includes your transport and communication facilities, trade and commerce facilities. So all these are included under your tertiary sector. So according to 1981 census, okay, according to 1981 census, there were four classification. One is agricultural cultivators, agricultural laborers, household industrial workers, and other workers. So this has been also uh, given by the census of India, and that has been also followed in 2001 and 2011 census. Pattern of work, you can go through it, okay. Which country will be a lot of people are engaged in primary activities in underdeveloped countries and developing nations, so that is for sure, okay. And uh, a lot of people will be engaged in tertiary activities and even in secondary activities in developed nations, okay. And then there is something called sectoral shift, okay. And you can clearly if you'll be looking into the data of USA, most the United Nations of America, you can clearly see how the development has progressed, okay. So there is a shift from the primary activity to the secondary activity, and from the secondary activity to the tertiary activity. But while the problem in India is that the sectoral shift is not proper, okay. So there is improper sectoral shift. Now, unless it is USA, the sectoral shift was proper. Now, because most of the people who were engaged in the primary activity, they uh, they shifted to the secondary activity, and after a certain point of time or certain period of time they shifted to the tertiary sector. But here in India, the shift is basically from the primary towards the tertiary sector, okay. So that gonna give problems in terms of economic development. Why? Because the secondary sector will be very much neglected. Now, because a lot of people who are engaged in primary activity and without shifting towards the secondary sector, and we Indian people are basically marching towards the service sector. So definitely the manufacturing sector uh, will be neglected, and that will be a problem for the sluggish development in India. So this is about the occupational composition in India. You can have a look at this table, and you can clearly see the trend. Okay, so the total work participation rate. Total work participation rate is basically how much people they participated in work and or they did the job. So in 1981, it is somewhere around 35.7% is, okay. And out of which 51% were male, and around 20% were female. So in 2011, the work participation rate is somewhere around 40%, out of which 53% are from male, and 25% are from female. Okay, So maybe in the next class we'll be discussing about the social cultural composition, and then we'll start other parts. If you have any doubts regarding the concepts, okay, so don't ask the factual questions or the informative questions. You can simply Google it. You can find the answers. And if you have any conceptual doubt, then raise your questions. We'll discuss.
Sir, namaskar. Good evening to
Namaskar.
good evening to all. Sir, যেহেতু নোটস তো আভেলেবল ହେଇପାରୁନି କାରଣ ବୁକ୍ ତ ଆସିପାରୁନି, ଯଦି ଆମେ ଯେତେ ଜଣ ବି ଅଛୁ ଗୋଟେ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ୍ ଗ୍ରୁପ୍ କେମିତି କ୍ରିଏଟ୍ ହେଇପାରନ୍ତା, ଆମ ଭିତରେ ଟିକେ କନେକ୍ସନ୍ ହେଇପାରନ୍ତା, ଯେମିତିକି ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ସବମିଟ୍ କି ଏକ୍ଜାମ୍ ରିଲେଟେଡ୍.
That you can appeal to your regional center.
Sir, I have already connected, but they have not given any information about book.
Books I can suggest. You can purchase from the local market or from online sources.
Yes, sir.
Okay, about about this paper, your population and settlement geography, you can go through the population geography by Muhammad Ijhar Hassan. Then you have human geography by Majid Hussain, and
Yes, sir.
settlement geography, I think by I don't remember the name. While discussing in maybe in next class, I will give you details about that book.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, actually, I have a doubt of
Okay.
assignment.
Okay.
Actually, there are questions 5 and 6. There are given that in question they question that you should answer with these diagrams, proper diagrams. And I
Uh,
my question is we should do draw the diagrams or print some Google through and put in our assignment. Which one the most clarify for the assignment, draw or print some?
no, I don't understand. I couldn't able to get you. Actually, which portion you are talking about? Your assignments.
Yes, sir. Actually, part B, there are two questions, 5 and 6, and they
Part
questioned
B.
part B.
Which page number?
Sir, assignment, our assignment
Okay. Okay.
00 MGG 004 assignment part, sir.
Okay.
Actually, we submit our assignment March 31st, na? So I have doubt. Two questions.
Okay.
These questions are upcoming units.
Okay, okay.
One question is explain the theories or internal structure of the cities with the help of
Huh?
appropriate diagram.
Now
And
here,
second,
here you have to draw those diagrams. Now
okay,
you can't simply print those diagrams and submit your assignments. Okay, draw those diagrams and practice it.
okay. So drawing is must important.
Yeah, definitely. In that way, you will be practicing it. So,
Okay.
hmm.
Okay. I just
Hello.
thought that
Yeah, yeah, I'm saying.
in Google we have searched just diagrams and put in our assignment is so nicely. So
No, 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 no. Draw those diagrams.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Rakesh.
I'm just saying that if any AI model is put in diagram, then if this diagram is put in assignment, it will be okay, or we can draw that.
Again, please.
There is a AI related app, na. If you
Huh?
do anything, put anything diagram related things, na, then they put
Hmm?
one diagram or any related things. If we collect
Hmm?
this thing and put in assignment, it will be okay, or we can draw the diagram.
You can draw the diagram. If you want to practice, then you can draw the diagram.
Practice related to draw the diagram, it will be okay. For assignment, na, it will be okay to
Hmm?
from collect from Google or any reference.
Okay, okay. You can collect and take reference from those.
Okay.
Any other people who are having any doubts? Okay, then.
Sir, sir,
Ah,
in our assignment there are 100 marks. And what is the score of exam? 100 or 50 marks, sir?
actually, I don't know the pattern. I am just I'm just here to counsel you about your syllabus. Okay,
Okay.
you can contact your regional center, Bhubaneswar, and they can give you a roadmap about your exams and assignments. Okay, or else I will ask them about the pattern of exam and assignments, and I will inform you in the next class. Okay.
Okay. And also, is this paper or Viva also?
Um, um, it may not be, because in practical, I think you will be having practicals, right? Do you have practical papers?
Practicals means we have just one practical paper. I don't.
Okay, so I think in that practical paper you will be facing Viva.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
One question is there, sir. If you ask so many questions to regional center, na, sir, ask one question from that when we receive books, sir.
You haven't received books yet?
No, maximum people are not
No,
receiving any
sir.
book.
No, sir.
Okay, okay. I will ask. I will ask.
Even you mail multiple times, they don't reply.
Okay, okay, okay. I will ask them to provide you books first, no, because without study material, how are you gonna study?
That's the main point. Na? They are saying that you can show in online portal. Not possible to every time to show the online portal.
Okay, I'll ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay then. So that's it for today then. We'll discuss in next class. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.